Yeah, I gotta have to go with... I'm just gonna start this video off by saying welcome back to the channel. Hope that you're gonna enjoy this video, and if you do, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, all that good stuff as well, va? And if this is your first time watching it, hej! Kul att ha dig på kanalen. In English, that means happy to have you here on the channel. During my last 3 years, I've been trying out so many good lenses for the Sony E-mount, and there still is a bunch of different lenses that I haven't tried out, but there is always a couple of lenses that I go back to and use more than others, mainly because they suit my needs so good, and they always perform the way that I want them to perform. And in this video, I thought we should go through my all-time favorites for the Sony E-mount system. It comes to no surprise that the first lens is also my most used lens, which is 24mm f1.4 G Master lens. If you've been here for a while, they know that I've been shooting all my B-rolls with this. I'm gonna crown this my B-roll king. It allows you to create so many different creative angles without distorting the image too much, such as if you were to go down to like a 16 or 14mm, and the 24mm allows you to get very close to your subject as well at 24 centimeters. And since you have the 1.4 aperture, it means that you can blur out the background even though you take full body portraits, or you go out and you want to shoot some nice landscape and blur out the foreground. There's just so many things that you can do with this lens that I like so much, and whenever I try it, when I haven't used it for a while, I go back, put it on, and I'm like, oh yeah, this reminds me why I like it so much. So if you haven't tried this lens out, I highly recommend you to go out and rent it, test it out, and just get the feeling of how good it is. And if you want to buy it, I'm gonna drop a link down below because I can't recommend this lens enough. It is incredibly good, especially for the way that I shoot my videos. But the only thing that I am missing in this lens, as I mentioned before, the focus ring. Because right now we have a digital focus, which means that you can turn it. It's not gonna affect the lens elements in the actual lens, but when the camera is on, that is where the focus works. So it's like, I think it's called focus by wire, and it works well, but you can't have it as a focus pulling system because it's just a little bit of lag, but just enough for you to notice. The next lens is, to my surprise actually, because I didn't think I would love this lens when I bought it, the 1635 f2.8 G Master lens. I was a huge fan of the 1635 f4 for a very long time. I still think it's a very good lens, but after using this as my main daily driver for almost half a year now, I can say that this is, and probably will be, my all-time favorite when it comes to zoom lenses for the foreseeable future. What I wish is that Sony would drop like a version 2 with built-in OSS and maybe go down to like a 14 to 35. That would be sick. Or 15 to 40, that would also be cool. The versatility that this lens gives me is incredibly good, and being able to go to 16mm, then back up to 35 and still have the 2.8 aperture allows for some really creative shots, and it also makes your videos look extremely good, and the photos comes out incredibly sharp with this lens as well. And I also like that it does have the weather sealing gasket here in the back. That is something that you don't have on the 1635 f4 lens, so be cautious of that if you're buying that lens. But I also will say that my recommendation on if you should get this lens or not is gonna depend a whole lot on what you're shooting. For me, in the way that I shoot my videos, this lens is golden because then you can have the versatility of the different angles, and I personally like to have the wide angle shots in my videos. I think it looks incredibly good. It also gives you a big feeling whenever you're watching the videos. For example, when I'm shooting videos here in the studio, I usually have the lens set to somewhere between 16 and 24, so that it gives the impression that the studio is bigger than what it actually is. And this is a great lens for any landscape photographer or interior shooter. You say it like that? Interior shooter. But if you're shooting weddings, be cautious because this might distort your subject a little bit if you go too wide. I don't want to say the last lens because there's so many good lenses, but I will say the last favorite of mine, and that is what we've talked about before, the 85 1.8. And this that I got right here is the Zeiss baddest version. I know that some of you are using the 85 1.8 Sony version, which I think is a fantastic option if you can't afford this one, because being able to have an 85 1.8 in your kit not only is incredibly small, but also lightweight and portable. It also gives your videos a really different look and that creamy out of focus background that we all love to have in our videos. Shooting with this lens at f1.8 is just incredibly fun, and I wish it had a closer focusing distance, because most 85mm lenses has like 85 centimeters to the subject that you can focus on. And if you were to have around 40 centimeters, then this would give you some really creative looks. But that is also why you have the macro lenses, so that you can go up and, you know, use a different lens for that if you need to. But the overall look that you get out of this lens is incredibly good, and has definitely been a favorite of mine ever since I bought it 3 years ago. And all these three lenses is something that I always carry in my camera bag, mainly because it's everything that I need to be able to create the videos that I want. Whenever I'm shooting my family, my son, and all that, I usually go for the 85mm or the 24. Whenever I'm shooting myself, 85mm portrait stuff, or 1635. There's just so much versatility in this focal range that we got here. I am personally not a huge fan of the 50mm focal length, just so you know, and that is why I kind of like skip over that and rather go with the a little bit wider lenses or the little bit tighter lenses. And some of you are probably wondering, Peter, what are you shooting on right now if you were sitting here talking about the lenses? Well, that is the runner-up for this video. As I've talked about before, the Tamron 2875. This lens is golden for a content creator, and I think it's a great complement to the 1635 2.8 because it gives you the ability to get really close to the products or to the subject that you're shooting. The versatility that you have on this lens to be able to go from 28mm to 75, especially if you're starting out, there's no other lens that I would recommend you to get than this one as your first full frame lens. And there's a bunch of different lenses that I would love to have in this list as well, but I think that these 3 or 4 lenses kind of like makes up for everything that I use 99% of the time. And I really hope that you enjoyed this video. This was a little bit back to the roots, talking about lenses, cameras and all that good stuff, va? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe as well, because I would love to see you in the next video. Now, Peter is gonna say goodbye. Have a good one. Take care.